The Great Hall of the Galactic Council floated in the darkness of space. It's a massive station that had witnessed 1,000 years of peace. Inside, 12 species sat in their designated chambers, each representing civilizations that had mastered the stars long before humans even dreamed of leaving their planet. The air recyclers hummed softly as Ambassador Taman stood at the human podium, his dark suit a stark, its contrast to the colorful robes and exotic forms surrounding him. 3 years had passed since Earth joined this ancient assembly. 3 years since humanity proved they could travel faster than light and earn their seat among the stars. But not everyone was happy about it. Across the circular chamber, the Crothian delegation stirred. They were large creatures, covered in thick scales that glinted under the station's lights. Their supreme commander, Vexter, rose to his full height of nearly 3 meters. His voice boomed through the translation system. "I call for immediate revocation of Earth's membership," Vexter declared. "These humans obtained their technology through theft. They are not ready for this council." Taman felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. He had expected this. The Crothians had been pushing against Earth's presence for months now. "We developed our faster-than-light drive through our own research," he said clearly. "All our data has been submitted for review." Vexter's eyes narrowed. "Then explain how a species that only discovered nuclear fusion 2 centuries ago suddenly matches technology that took us 10,000 years to perfect." The other council members shifted in their seats. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed curious about the answer. Taman knew this moment was crucial. "We built upon the fundamental physics discovered by our scientists. Yes, we progressed quickly. But speed of development is not evidence of theft. Quick." Vexter laughed, a harsh sound. "You went from chemical rockets to quantum drives in less than 100 years. It's impossible." "Impossible for you, perhaps," Taman replied. "But humans have always learned fast, when survival depends on it." The lead counselor, an ancient being named Vexera, raised one crystalline hand. "Enough, we will review the evidence presented by both sides. This session is recessed for 6 standard hours." As the chamber began to empty, Taman noticed something odd. Vexter was smiling. It was not the expression of someone who expected to lose. The Crothian commander left quickly, followed by his officers. Something felt wrong. Tay-Min activated his secure communication device. "Connect me to Earth. Priority channel." The hologram flickered to life, showing Admiral Jiwoo sitting in her command center beneath Seoul. The Admiral was in her 50s. Her hair pulled back tight, her eyes sharp and alert. Behind her, dozens of officers worked at glowing displays. "Ambassador," she greeted him. "How did the session go?" "Bad. The Crothians are pushing hard. But that's not why I'm calling. Something feels off." Vexter looked too confident when the recess was called. Giwoo's expression darkened. "Trust your instincts. I'll put our defense network on alert. Is that necessary?" "The Council has strict laws against the Council has laws," Giwoo interrupted. "But laws only matter if everyone follows them. I'd rather be paranoid than dead." Taman nodded. "Keep me informed." The connection ended. Taman stood alone in the empty council chamber, staring at the stars visible through the massive windows. Earth was out there somewhere, small blue world that had clawed its way to the stars through determination and brilliance. He wouldn't let politics destroy what his species had earned. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Jiwoo was already moving. She touched her communication panel. "Captain Yuna, report to my office immediately." Within minutes, her intelligence officer arrived. Yuna was young but sharp, one of the best analysts in the fleet. "Admiral, I want full sensor sweeps of the entire solar system. Every satellite, every probe, everything we have. I want to know if anything unusual is out there. It's a lot of resources for a routine scan. It's not routine." "The ambassador thinks something's wrong at the council." "I agree with him." Yuna saluted and left. Jiwoo pulled up the defensive grid on her main display. Humanity had not been idle during their 3 years in the council. While the older species assumed Earth's defenses were primitive, humans had been building in secret. Thousands of platforms hidden in the darkness. Equipped with weapons technology that would shock the galaxy, they had learned a valuable lesson from history: hope for peace, but prepare for war. 2 hours later, Una burst back into the command center. Her face was pale. "Admiral, we've got quantum signatures at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. They match Crothian warship profiles." Guo felt ice in her veins. "How many?" "At least 300, ma'am. It's a full assault fleet." The command center went silent. 300 warships was enough to conquer most systems. It was overwhelming force designed to crush any resistance. Time to enter system. 6 hours at their current speed. Ji-Woo activated the emergency channel to the president. Dune's face appeared on screen, the leader of Earth's unified government. "Admiral, I see the reports. Confirm threat level. Maximum threat. Madam President. The Crothians are coming with everything they have." President Dayun's expression became stone. "You have authorization for full defensive measures?" "All protocols are active." "Protect our world, Admiral." "Yes, ma'am." The channel closed. Gi-Woo stood and faced her command staff. "This is not a drill. Battle stations. Activate all defensive platforms. I want firing solutions on every hostile ship the moment they're in range." Across Earth, alarms began to sound. Not panic alarms for civilians, but military signals calling every defender to their post. On the moon, weapon systems that had been disguised as research stations powered up. In the asteroid belt, stealth platforms activated their targeting systems. Around Jupiter and Saturn, automated defense networks came alive. The Terran Defense Network. Humanity's greatest secret was waking up. On his flagship Domination's edge, Dexter reviewed the tactical display with satisfaction. His sensors showed a few satellites around Earth, some basic orbital facilities, nothing that could stand against his fleet. The humans had made good ships for exploring, but they were still children when it came to war. He had timed this perfectly. The council was in recess, distracted by his accusations. By the time they reconvened, Earth would be a burning example of what happened to species that didn't know their place. The council would condemn him publicly, but privately, they would be relieved. Humanity had made them all nervous with their rapid advancement. "All ships, maintain formation," he ordered. "We hit them fast and hard. I want this over in 3 hours." The Crothian fleet emerged from faster than light, travel at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of metal locusts. 300 warships, each one the size of a small city, their hulls scarred from 100 previous conquests. Vexter stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The outer system appeared empty, except for a few automated mining stations and some scientific probes. "Pathetic," he muttered. "They have no defensive perimeter at all." His tactical officer, a younger Crothian named Drell, nodded agreement. The scans show minimal military presence. Some satellites around their home planet, but nothing in deep space. They're completely exposed. Vexter smiled. This would be even easier than he thought. "All ships advance at combat speed. Target the inner planets. I want Earth to see us coming and know there's nothing they can do to stop it." The fleet began its burn toward the inner solar system. Their massive engines left trails of ionized particles across the darkness. Inside each warship, thousands of Crothian warriors prepared for battle, checking weapons and armor. They expected this to be simple. Another primitive species, learning the price of challenging the established order. On Earth, Admiral Ji-Woo watched her tactical display light up with enemy contacts. Each Crothian ship showed clearly on her screens, their positions tracked with perfect precision. The advantage of quantum sensors was that stealth technology didn't work against them. She could see every enemy vessel, as if they were painted in bright colors. 312 confirmed targets, reported Captain Yuna. They're maintaining standard battle formation. Advancing in 3 waves. Gi-Woo nodded slowly. They think we can't see them coming. They think we're helpless. She touched her communication panel. "All stations, this is Sol Command. Enemy fleet has entered the system. Execute Defense Plan Omega. Across the solar system, thousands of hidden platforms received the signal. For 3 years, humanity had been seeding their territory with weapons that the Galactic Council didn't know existed. Stealth satellites that could hide from almost any sensor. Gun platforms built into asteroids. Missile batteries concealed in the rings of Saturn. Every installation was connected through quantum communication, creating a network that could respond faster than any enemy could react. Engineer Hyenwu sat in the Lunar Command Center. Buried deep beneath the surface of the moon, his fingers flew across his controls as he brought the outer system batteries online. Firing solutions locked. All platforms reporting ready status. Hold your fire, Giwu ordered. Let them get closer. I want them deep inside our kill zone before they realize what's happening. The Crothian fleet crossed the orbit of Neptune, still confident and unworried. Vexer was reviewing casualty estimates, trying to decide how much destruction would be enough to make his point. Total extinction seemed excessive. Perhaps he would leave a few million humans alive to serve as a warning to others. That's when the darkness came alive with fire. One moment the space around the fleet was empty. The next moment, thousands of weapons platforms appeared on Crothian sensors, each one already locked onto a target. Before Vexler could even shout an order, the first salvo hit. Humanity had learned something important about warfare in space. Missiles were useful, energy weapons had their place, but nothing beat simple kinetic energy. Take a chunk of tungsten, accelerate it to 90% of light speed, and let physics do the rest. The impact released more energy than most bombs. The human magnetic accelerators fired in perfect synchronization. Thousands of metal projectiles, each one smaller than a human fist, crossed the distance to the Crothian fleet in seconds. At that speed, shields were useless. The projectiles punched through the Crothian armor like it was paper. 40 warships died in the first 10 seconds. They simply exploded, torn apart by impacts that released gigawatts of energy. The beautiful formations that Vexler had organized dissolved into chaos as surviving ships tried to scatter. Evasive action, Vexler roared. Return fire! Where are those weapons coming from? His tactical officer was frantically working his controls. Everywhere, Commander. Counting over 4,000 separate firing positions. They're hidden, sir. Our sensors didn't detect them until they fired. Vexler felt cold fear for the first time in his military career. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to have basic defenses, at best. Activate offensive systems. Plasma torpedoes. Full spread. Saturate the area. The Crothian fleet began firing back. Their weapons were powerful, designed to crack planets. Plasma torpedoes, each one carrying enough energy to vaporize a city, streaked toward the human platforms. Some found their targets. Human installations exploded in brilliant flashes of light. But for every platform destroyed, 3 more appeared and opened fire. Hyenwu watched his display as 2 of his outer system batteries were eliminated. Felt a moment of grief for the AI systems that had been destroyed, then pushed it aside. Batteries 7 and 12 are gone. Redistributing fire patterns, targeting enemy cruisers in Sector 4. The lunar accelerators fired again. More Crothian ships died. The fleet that had entered the solar system with such confidence was being torn apart. Vexler's flagship shook as a near miss overloaded their shields. Alarms blared across the bridge. Damage report. Vexler demanded. Shield generators at 60%. Hull integrity holding. But Commander, we've lost 70 ships already. Our attack wings are scattered. We're taking casualties faster than we can coordinate. 70 ships. Nearly a quarter of his fleet gone in less than 5 minutes. Vexler made a decision. All ships scatter formation. Multiple vectors toward the target planet. They can't cover everything at once. It was a desperate tactic, abandoning all coordination in favor of speed. If enough ships could reach Earth, they could still complete the mission. The Crothian vessels broke formation completely, each one choosing its own path toward the inner system. Admiral Giwu watched the enemy response with grim satisfaction. They're panicking. Good. All stations free fire. Priority targets are the larger vessels, cruisers and above. As the Crothian fleet passed Jupiter, they faced a new nightmare. The giant planet's gravity well was full of human installations. Defense platforms hidden in the orbital paths of Jupiter's moons opened fire. Even the Great Red Spot, that massive storm that had raged for centuries, concealed weapons batteries. The humans had turned the entire planet into a fortress. More ships died. The Crothians kept firing back, kept trying to advance, but it was like fighting a ghost. Every time they eliminated one human position, 10 more appeared. Their sensors couldn't track all the threats. Their weapons couldn't fire fast enough. Lieutenant Biora piloted her corvette out of the shadow of Jupiter's moon. Io. The small human warship accelerated at rates that would have killed any Crothian crew. But Biora's inertial dampeners kept her safe. She targeted a Crothian cruiser and fired her antimatter missiles. The warheads hit the enemy shields and detonated, creating brief suns in the darkness. The Crothian cruiser's shields collapsed and the ship began to break apart. "Target destroyed," Biora reported calmly. "Seeking new target?" All across the fleet, human corvettes were executing similar attacks. They were smaller than the Crothian ships, faster, harder to hit. Each one carried enough firepower to cripple larger vessels. The humans fought like wolves, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond. By the time the Crothian fleet reached Mars orbit, they had lost over half their ships. 160 vessels, destroyed in less than 3 hours. Thard stared at his tactical display in disbelief. At his entire career, he had never seen such one-sided destruction. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were winning. "Commander, we need to retreat," his tactical officer said quietly. "If we stay, we'll all die." Vexthor's pride warred with his survival instinct. Retreat meant admitting defeat. It meant becoming a disgrace to the Crothian Empire. But staying meant watching his entire fleet get destroyed. He made his choice. "No, we push forward. If we can reach Earth, we can still hurt them." All remaining ships, maximum acceleration to the target planet. No more attempts at tactics. We go straight in. It was the decision of a commander who knew he had already lost, but refused to accept it. 120 Crothian warships turned toward Earth and burned their engines at maximum power. They would reach the human homeworld or die trying. Admiral Jiwoo watched them come and prepared for the final battle. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Ambassador Taman stood at the human podium, his face calm despite the storm around him. The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed the complete tactical recording of the battle. 12 Council species watched in stunned silence as 300 Crothian warships were systematically destroyed by defenses they hadn't known existed. Elder Counselor Vexthor's crystalline form seemed to dim with shock. "This is impossible. Our assessment teams evaluated Earth's defensive capabilities 3 years ago. They reported minimal military infrastructure." "Your assessment teams saw what they expected to see," Taman replied quietly. "They assumed that because we were new to faster-than-light travel, we must be primitive in all ways. That assumption was incorrect. The recording showed the outer system batteries emerging from stealth, their kinetic weapons firing with devastating precision. It showed the lunar fortifications, the hidden corvettes, the planetary shields. Every technological marvel that humanity had built in secret. Counselor Venshara of the Pelothian Union leaned forward. "You concealed your true military strength." "You lied to this council, no?" Taman said firmly. "We answered every question truthfully. We submitted all required data. If the council's observers didn't ask the right questions or look in the right places, that's not deception on our part. That's underestimation on yours." Younger council member, Colonel of the Vorthan Sphere, spoke up. "But why? If you possessed this level of power, why petition to join us at all? Why not simply take what you wanted?" It was the question Taman had been waiting for. "Because power without wisdom leads only to destruction. We learned that lesson from our own history. We fought wars that nearly destroyed our world. We've seen what happens when nations value strength over cooperation. We sought membership in the council because we believed in the idea of peaceful coexistence among species." The hologram continued playing. It showed the final moments of the battle, the Terran battlecruisers emerging from stealth to destroy the last Crothian vessels. The Galactic Council watched as weapons technology they thought was theoretical proved devastatingly real. How? Dexera asked. How did you advance so quickly? Taemin took a breath. Because we had to. Because when you're a young species in a galaxy full of ancient powers, you either adapt fast or you die. We took the fundamental physics you all use and we asked different questions. We approached problems from angles you hadn't considered. Not because we're smarter, but because we're desperate. Necessity drives innovation. The recording ended. The chamber fell silent. Then the Crothian delegate, who had been watching with growing horror, stood. This is a war crime. The humans destroyed our fleet without warning, without negotiation. They must face sanctions. Taemin's eyes went cold. Without warning? Your supreme commander dispatched an assault fleet to Earth, while this council debated false accusations he invented. He intended to destroy our homeworld and present you with accomplished facts. The only crime here is his. We were defending council interests, the Crothian delegate protested. You were committing genocide? Taemin shot back. 300. Warships sent to attack a council member without authorization. That's not defense. That's aggression. And Earth responded with appropriate force. Councillor Dexera raised a hand for silence. Enough. The evidence is clear. The Crothian Empire launched an unprovoked attack on Earth. The human response, while shocking in its effectiveness, was purely defensive. This council will adjourn to debate appropriate sanctions. The session broke. Taemin returned to his quarters, exhausted. His communication device activated. President Doyun's face appeared. You did well, Ambassador, she said. The council is scared now. Good. With respect, Madam President, we don't want them scared. We want them respectful. Fear breeds hostility. Doyun nodded slowly. True, but respect and fear are often intertwined. We've proven we can defend ourselves. Now we need to prove we can be trusted with that power. On Earth, Admiral Ji Woo stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Eternal Dawn, now docked at Seoul Station. Captain Minna stood beside her, watching through the observation window as repair crews worked on ships damaged in the battle. The human casualties had been remarkably light. 23 platforms destroyed, 4 corvettes damaged, 138 personnel killed. The Crothians had lost over 50,000. It was a slaughter, Mina said quietly. I've never seen such one-sided destruction. They underestimated us, Jiwoo replied. They thought we were weak. They learned otherwise. Will the council punish us for this? Gi Woo shook her head. They can't. We defended ourselves against an illegal attack. If anything, this makes Earth safer. No one will dare attack us now. Below them, in a secured holding area, Vexter and his surviving crew members sat in human custody. The Crothian commander had said nothing since his capture. He simply stared at the walls, processing the magnitude of his failure. Engineer Kyungsu entered the detention area. He was part of the team managing the Crothian prisoners. Vexter looked up as the human approached. You will execute us, Vexter stated. It wasn't a question. Goal, Kyungsu said. We're returning you to your empire. You'll face judgment from your own people. Vexter laughed bitterly. That's worse than execution. I will die in disgrace. My family name will be erased from Crothian history. That's not our problem, Kyungsu replied. You chose to attack us. You chose to kill. These are the consequences of your choices. Why not just kill us now? You destroyed our fleet without mercy. You destroyed your ships because they were trying to destroy our world. But we don't kill prisoners. That's not who we are. Vexter studied the human carefully. You're making a mistake. Showing mercy to enemies makes you weak. No, Kyungsu said. Showing mercy when you have the power to destroy makes you strong. It proves you have control. It proves you're not ruled by anger or fear. He left the detention area. Vexter sat in silence, trying to understand these strange beings who had defeated him so completely in the council chamber. The debate continued for hours. Some species argued for restricting Earth's military capabilities. Others pointed out that such restrictions were impossible to enforce and would only breed resentment. Eventually, a compromise emerged. Ambassador Taemin returned to the podium to hear the council's decision. Vexara spoke for the assembly. The Council has reached its conclusions. First, Earth will retain full membership status. The attack upon your world was illegal, and your defensive response was justified. Felt relief, but kept his expression neutral. Second, Dexara continued, Earth will accept Council observers to verify that your military expansion remains purely defensive in nature. You will provide quarterly reports on all new military installations. We accept these terms, Taman said. Third, the Crothian Empire faces severe sanctions. Trade restrictions, diplomatic isolation, and mandatory reparations to Earth for the damages caused by their illegal attack. Furthermore, any Council member that launches unauthorized military action in the future will face expulsion. The Crothian delegate looked defeated. His species had lost a fleet and now faced consequences that would hurt their economy for decades. Finally, Dexara said, Earth is invited to join the Council's Security Committee. Your defensive innovations have proven valuable. We would benefit from your perspective on military matters. Taman hadn't expected that. It was a significant honor granting Earth's influence over Council's security policy. We accept this responsibility with gratitude. The session ended. As the chamber emptied, Councillor Arisath of the Valonian Concordat approached Timon privately. The elderly alien's multiple eyes studied him carefully. You understand what just happened? Arisath asked. We won, Taman said. You disrupted 1,000 years of established order. The old species believed they understood the limits of technology. You proved them wrong. Some will admire you for this. Others will resent you, and many will fear you. We don't want to be feared. Too late, Arisath said gently. The galaxy now knows that humanity can defend itself. That changes everything. The question is what you do with that knowledge. Taman thought about that as he returned to his quarters. Earth had proven its strength. Now came the harder task of proving its wisdom. 3 weeks after the battle, Crothian diplomatic vessel arrived at Earth orbit. It carried no weapons and transmitted peaceful intentions on all frequencies. Admiral Jiwu granted them permission to approach Sol Station. She was curious what they wanted. The Crothian ambassador who stepped off the shuttle was nothing like Vexther. She was older, her scales faded with age, her movements careful and deliberate. Her name was Shalrix, and she bowed deeply when she met Admiral Jiwu in the docking bay. I come to collect our survivors, Shalrix said quietly, and to apologize. Gu studied her carefully. Your government sent an attack fleet to destroy us. An apology seems insufficient. I know. Words cannot repair what was broken, but I offer them anyway. Vexther acted without authorization from our civilian government. He convinced our military command that humanity posed a threat. They believed him because they wanted to believe him. Fear makes fools of us all. They walked together through the station. Human personnel watched the Crothian ambassador with wary eyes. The wounds from the battle were still fresh. Your empire is facing sanctions, Giwu said. Yes, deserved sanctions. We lost 300 ships and gained nothing but shame. Our economy will suffer for years. But perhaps this teaches us a necessary lesson about the cost of aggression. They reached the detention area where Vexther and his crew waited. The former Supreme Commander looked up as they entered. When he saw Shalrix, his expression darkened. Have you come to watch my humiliation? Vexther asked. I've come to bring you home, Shalrix replied, where you will face trial for launching an illegal attack without government authorization. I was protecting the Empire. You were feeding your pride, and now our people will pay the price for your arrogance. Giwu watched the exchange with interest. The Crothians were holding their own accountable. That was something. He's yours to take, Giwu said. All survivors will be released to your custody. Shalrix bowed again. Thank you for your mercy. Many species would have executed them. Or not many species, Jiwu replied simply. Back on the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Taman attended his first security committee meeting. The chamber was smaller than the main council hall, designed for closed sessions. 8 species sat around the table, representing the military powers of the galaxy. Councillor Thexera opened the meeting. We are here to discuss the new strategic reality. Earth's defensive capabilities have forced us to reconsider many assumptions about military technology and doctrine. Forced is an accurate word, said Commander Kelther of the Draxian Collective. He was a military officer, not a diplomat, and he looked at Tommen with a mixture of respect and suspicion. You hid your strength. That makes us question what else you might be hiding. We built defenses appropriate to our needs, Tommen responded. Every species has the right to defend itself. But your defenses surpass those of species that have been spacefaring for millennia. How do we know you won't use that power aggressively? You don't, Tommen said bluntly. Just as we don't know if you'll attack us tomorrow. We all live with uncertainty. The Council exists to build trust despite that uncertainty. The Xorus form glowed softly. Well said. The purpose of this committee is not to restrict Earth, but to learn from Earth's innovations. Ambassador Tommen, your government has agreed to share some defensive technologies with the Council. We would like to begin with your stealth platform designs. The meeting continued for hours. Tommen shared what Earth was willing to share, carefully maintaining security on the most sensitive systems. It was a delicate balance between cooperation and protection. By the end, several council members seemed more comfortable with humanity's presence. On Earth, life was slowly returning to normal. The brief panic during the battle had faded. People went back to work, to school, to their daily routines. But something had changed. Humanity had faced an existential threat and survived. More than survived. They had won decisively. Young Officer Subin reported for her first day at Seoul Station. She was fresh from the academy, eager and nervous. Admiral Juwoo herself conducted her orientation, walking her through the command center. This is where we coordinate our entire defensive network, Juwoo explained. Every satellite, every platform, every ship, all connected through quantum communication. Subin looked at the displays with wonder. I watched the battle recordings. The way our forces responded, the coordination, it was perfect. It was necessary, Gu corrected. We had no margin for error. 300 enemy ships meant we had to be perfect or die. Do you think they'll try again? Giwu shook her head. No. The Crothians learned their lesson. So did everyone else watching. But there will always be threats. New enemies. New challenges. That's why we train. That's why we prepare. They walked to the observation deck. Earth turned slowly below them, blue and beautiful and alive. Subin stared at it for a long moment. Why did you choose to spare the Crothian survivors? She asked. Everyone says we should have executed them for what they tried to do. Gu considered the question carefully, because killing them would have made us like them. Vexthor attacked us because he saw humans as threats to be eliminated. If we had executed his survivors, we would have proven him right. Instead, we showed him mercy. We showed the galaxy that humanity can be strong without being cruel. But doesn't mercy make us look weak? To some, perhaps. But true strength isn't about how much damage you can inflict. It's about having the power to destroy and choosing not to. It's about controlling yourself even when you're angry or afraid. Subin thought about that. What's our mission now, Admiral? The threat is over. What do we do next? Jiwoo smiled. We build. We explore. We prove that humanity deserves its place among the stars. Not because we can destroy, but because we choose to create. We show the galaxy that we're not conquerors. We're builders. We're dreamers. We're survivors who learn that cooperation is stronger than conquest. Across the galaxy, the news of Earth's victory spread. Some species reacted with fear, some with admiration, some with calculation. The balance of power had shifted. Humanity was no longer a minor player to be ignored or dismissed. They were a force to be reckoned with. On the Crothian homeworld, Vexthor stood trial. His people watched as the evidence was presented. The reckless attack, the 300 ships lost, the disgrace brought to their entire species. The verdict was swift. Vexthor was stripped of rank, his family name erased from public records, his property confiscated. He would spend the rest of his life in prison, remembered only as the fool who underestimated humanity. In his cell, Vexthor had time to think. He replayed the battle in his mind over and over. The human defenses appearing from nowhere. The impossible weapons. The systematic destruction of his fleet. He had entered Earth's system with absolute confidence. He had left in chains. The humans had taught him a lesson, though not the one he expected. They proved that size and experience didn't guarantee victory. Innovation and determination could overcome seemingly impossible odds. The Crothians had been spacefaring for 10,000 years. Humanity had been among the stars for barely a century. Yet in battle, young species had crushed the old one. It was a lesson the entire galaxy would remember on the council station. Ambassador Taman met privately with Counselor Irasath. The elderly Valonian had requested the meeting, and Taman was curious why. "You handled the situation well," Irasath said. "Better than I expected. The Council is satisfied with Earth's explanations." "But you're not," Taman observed. "You wouldn't have called this meeting if you were satisfied." Irasath made a sound that might have been laughter. Perceptive. "No, I'm not satisfied. I'm concerned. Earth has disrupted the old order. You've shown that rapid technological advancement is possible. Other young species will look at your example and try to follow it. Some will succeed. Some will fail. The galaxy is going to change. Change isn't always bad. No, but it's always difficult. The Council has maintained peace for 1,000 years because everyone understood their place. Now you've upset that understanding. Species that thought themselves powerful realize they may not be. Those who thought themselves weak see hope. This creates instability. What would you have us do? Pretend to be weaker than we are?" "No," Irasath said firmly. "Be exactly what you are. But understand the responsibility that comes with power. You're not just defending Earth anymore. You're shaping the future of galactic civilization. Every action you take, every decision you make, will influence how other species develop. That's a heavy burden." Taman met the ancient being's gaze. "Right, we know. We're trying to be worthy of it." "Then you're already ahead of most species at your stage of development." The Crothians never learned that lesson. They believed power was an end in itself. "You seem to understand that power is a tool, nothing more." They spoke for another hour, discussing the future, the challenges ahead, the opportunities for cooperation. When Timon finally returned to his quarters, he felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Earth had proven it could fight. Now it had to prove it could lead in Sol Station Command Center. Admiral Jiwoo looked at the tactical display showing the entire solar system. Every platform, every ship, every defense installation glowed on her screen. The Terran Defense Network, humanity's shield against the darkness. Young Officer Subin stood beside her, learning, watching, preparing for the day when she might command these defenses herself. "Will there be more attacks?" Subin asked. "Probably not," Jiwoo replied. "But we'll stay ready anyway, because that's what defenders do. We hope for peace, but we prepare for war. We build weapons we hope never to use. We train for battles we pray never to fight. And if peace holds, if there are no more enemies," Jiwoo smiled, "then we'll have succeeded. And we can turn these tools of war into tools of exploration. The same technology that powers our weapons can power our ships. The same factories that build missiles can build habitats. War and peace aren't opposites. They're choices. And humanity chooses peace whenever possible." She looked at Earth turning below, at the billions of lives they had protected, at the future they had secured. The battle was over. The real work was just beginning. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through conquest but through courage, not through cruelty but through resilience. They had proven they could defend themselves against anyone who threatened them. Now, they had to prove they could build something worth defending, and they would. Because that's what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They endured. And they never, ever gave up. His officers acknowledged. The Crothian Third Assault Fleet drove deeper into the solar system. Confident in their superiority, they had no idea what was waiting for them in the dark.